Okay, so we're going to talk about writing fractions as decimals and percents. So here you'll see we're given a table, and our first fraction is 1/4. So when you see this little slash here, that means it's a fraction, and the first number is the number that goes on top, and the second number is the one that goes under the fraction. So if it's helpful to rewrite it, then you may certainly do so. And now we need to write it as a percent and write 1/4 as a decimal. So let's use some space down below. I'll rewrite our fraction 1/4. And now we need to think about how we're going to change that into a percent. Well, if you remember what a percent is, a percent means per 100. That means some number over or per 100. So this could be kind of read as 1 per 4. So we want to find 1/4 as some number, question mark, per 100 or over 100. So in order to find what 1/4 is as a fraction with 100 in the denominator, we have to find an equivalent fraction. An equivalent means equal. So we have to find an equal fraction, but this is a specific equal fraction. It's a fraction with 100 in the denominator. So I need to think about what I can multiply 1/4 by so that I get 100 in the denominator. So if I think about quarters, I know if I have 4 quarters that will equal 100 or $1, and a quarter is worth 25. So I know that I can multiply 4 times 25 to get 100, just like if I have 4 quarters, which are worth 25 cents, I get $1. Then I also remembered when I'm finding an equivalent fraction, I need to make sure that I'm multiplying the first fraction by a number that's equal to 1. So what over 25 is equal to 1 is equal to 1? 25 over 25 is equal to 1, because 25 divided by 25 is 1. So then my last step is just to multiply across. So 1 times 25 is 25. So now I found that equivalent fraction, 25 over 100, and 100 is my denominator, because in order to find the percent, I need to know what the fraction is per 100. So now I know it's 25 per 100. Now the very last step is just to take my top number here, 25. I'm going to write that here, and I'm going to write the percent sign, because what this means is 25 per 100, just like here, 25 per 100. But if I had 25 per 100 and then I had the percent sign, like this, what this would be read as is 25 per 100 per 100. That's a little bit repetitive and redundant. We don't need to write this part here because the percent sign says it all. Okay? So again, the steps are to take your original fraction, multiply it by something, so you get an equivalent fraction with 100 in your denominator. Then whatever it is on top, that's your per 100, so just take the top number and add a percent sign. Okay, so now we have our percent, so let's plug that into our table. So 1/4 as a percent is 25%. Now we need to write this as a decimal. So once we have our percent, it's easy to find the decimal, because all you need to do is take the number in front of the percent sign, 25, and instead of writing your percent sign, you'll write a decimal, and then you just need to scoot it over 1, 2 times. So then if you want to rewrite it, you have 25, and again your decimal point moved 2 spaces, so that's in front of the 2. And then to write this properly, you just add a 0 in the front. So now we have our decimal, 0.25. And so now I will just plug that into my table up here. Okay, let's look at our next one. Our next one is 3 over 5. So if you want to write that the traditional way, you can just start with 3 over 5, and then we can use our space down below to start our work. So I'm going to rewrite 3 over 5, and now I know I need to multiply by some number to get 100 on the bottom, because I need to find my percent, which is this fraction as per 100. So I need to think about 5 times what is going to get me to 100. 5 times 20. 5 times 20 equals 100. So I know I'm also going to multiply by 20 on top. 3 times 20 equals 60. So I get 60 over 100. So then I know that all I need to do is take my top number, which is 60, and add the percent sign. So this is 60 per 100. I'm going to go up to my table and plug that into my percent. So 3/5 is 60%. And now we still need to find the decimal. So as you remember, once we get our percent, it's easy to find our decimal. We're just going to write 60, add the decimal, shift it over 1, 2 times, and this is where our decimal ends up. And then if we want to rewrite it, 60, the decimal here now, and then add a 0 in front. And then we can plug this in to our table. So 3/5 is equal to 60%, or 0.60. Now we can look at our next one, which is 26 over 100. So this one is a lot easier than the other ones because it's already written over 100. So all we need to do, since we have 26 over 100, is take our top number and add our percent sign. So we get 26%. We can plug this into our table, and then we will quickly determine our decimal. So again, we are given 26. Instead of writing the percent sign, we're going to write our decimal. We're going to shift it over 1, 2 times to the left, and then when we rewrite it, we're going to add a 0 in the front. And then this is our decimal, which we can rewrite up here in our table. And then our last one, but not least, is 7 over 25. So we can then write 7 over 25 here, and we're going to think of what we can multiply by to get 100 in our denominator. So we know from the first problem that we looked at, 25 times 4 is equal to 100. So we have 25, so we know we need to multiply it by 4. And then, of course, when we find equivalent fraction, we need to multiply it by 1. So we're going to multiply it by 4 over 4, which is equal to 1. Final step is to multiply across. 7 times 4 is 28. So then I have 28 per 100, or 28 over 100. So I'll take my number that's in the numerator, and I can add a percent sign. I'm going to take my percent and plug it into my table. And then, now that I have my percent, it's easy to find my decimal. So I'm going to write 28, and I'm going to drop off the percent sign and instead add a decimal. I'm going to scoot it over 1, 2 times, and then to rewrite it properly, I'm going to add a 0 in front of my decimal. And then we can plug that into our table.